Many large organizations operate under a specific delusion. They believe producing comprehensive documentation, detailed capability maps, and multi-year roadmaps is the equivalent of executing a strategy. But if you look at the enterprises that consistently outperform their competitors, you won't find teams that succeeded simply by generating heavier documentation or holding more planning meetings. They succeed because they possess the discipline to make difficult, deliberate choices about exactly what the organization will refuse to do. This distinction matters deeply for enterprise architects. Architecture is the discipline that creates structural order. Strategy dictates exactly where that structure must be deployed to create a competitive advantage. The instinct is often to pursue technological completeness, to build out every possible capability across the board. But attempting to design everything evenly drains finite resources and destroys the ability to focus on what actually matters. A perfectly documented architecture without ruthless strategic choices is just a catalog of capabilities. It leaves the organization with average capabilities everywhere and excellence nowhere. Every enterprise operates within absolute, unforgiving constraints. Budgets have strict caps. Top-tier engineering talent is exceptionally rare, and time is entirely irreversible. Because of these constraints, architecture carries a heavy opportunity cost. Every single dollar or hour invested in building one particular capability is an explicit decision to starve another area of the business. These constraints force a shift in the primary discipline of the enterprise architect. The role moves away from a focus on comprehensive design. In its place, the modern architect's true job becomes the intelligent, asymmetrical allocation of scarce resources. Let's look at how most organizations approach their operations. The standard baseline goal is usually to achieve high competence in every single department simultaneously. When executive leadership spreads the budget evenly across a capability matrix, the result is predictable: average capabilities everywhere. High-performing enterprises intentionally treat most capabilities as low-investment utilities, draining resources from generic functions to funnel disproportionate capital into a tiny fraction of core areas. By funneling disproportionate investment into highly specific areas, they build unique organizational strengths that competitors struggle to replicate. This means architects must stop asking whether a capability can be implemented and start asking whether it actually deserves strategic investment in the first place. The objective is competitive differentiation, moving beyond a checkbox exercise on a capability map. True differentiation requires the courage to intentionally underinvest in non-critical areas to fund genuine market advantages. Modern executives have unprecedented access to data, predictive analytics, artificial intelligence, and sophisticated modeling tools. These technologies improve decision quality on a daily basis, but they lack the ability to define a strategy on their own. Analytics are limited by their nature. They explain the past and estimate probable futures based on historical trends. They cannot create a future that does not yet exist. Great strategy is an act of profound imagination, supported by evidence. It requires seeing a future landscape that historical data alone could never reveal. Enterprise architects should resist becoming mere translators of executive reports and dashboards. Their focus belongs on designing entirely new operating models. Optimizing today's enterprise through data is a maintenance task. Creating real value requires imagining a future that does not yet exist. Large organizations often suffer from a dangerous structural disconnect. Executives strategize in isolated committees, while operational teams execute orders without input. This structural gap separates executive strategy from operational execution. Executives miss ground-level constraints, while operators lack strategic context. Enterprise architects act as the reinforced bridge between them. They connect operational realities, how processes work and where constraints exist, with the broader business strategy. This cross-functional visibility allows the architect to take abstract executive ambition and translate it into actual operational feasibility. Executive strategy becomes credible and actionable only when it is rigorously informed by the architect's operational truth. We must discard the failure of linear planning, the old assumption that the future can be neatly extrapolated from historical trends. Today's business environment operates differently. Markets and technologies evolve as unpredictable, complex adaptive systems, constantly moving and reconnecting. Competitive advantage no longer emerges from following a rigid 5-year plan. It comes from continuous experimentation and rapid learning. This requires massive architectural shifts. Organizations must build flexible platforms defined by modular, composable capabilities. In this environment, rapid feedback loops cease to be basic operational metrics. They become vital strategic assets that keep the organization alive and reacting to new inputs. The enterprise architect has to evolve. They must move from a custodian of governance to a leader of strategic agility. Modern architecture focuses on designing an enterprise capable of learning and adapting faster than its competitors. When evaluating an enterprise portfolio, the single most overlooked strategic resource is the allocation of time. Every architectural decision ultimately dictates how engineering capacity and executive attention will be consumed for years to come. Regardless of official job descriptions, an architect's digital calendar reveals their true strategy. Watch this typical week fill tightly with reactive problem-solving and governance meetings. High performers restructure this time, wiping away the gray to protect highly concentrated blocks for high-leverage design. High-performing architects consciously choose their battlefield. They aggressively automate or delegate activities that consume effort without advancing specific business outcomes. Time allocation is not a matter of personal productivity. It is the raw, foundational material of competitive advantage. We have to shift how we define professional value in this space. Architects do not create value simply by producing elegant system models or enforcing strict technology standards. Architectural value only exists when business leaders, product teams, or end customers achieve measurably better outcomes through that work. It requires moving from asking, "What architecture should we build?" to asking, "Whose problem are we actually solving?" Strategy is often mistaken for a presentation deck, a capability map, or a 5-year roadmap, but real strategy is revealed exclusively through the sequence of difficult resource allocation choices made every single day. The ultimate purpose of an enterprise architect is to make the deliberate choices today that force the organization into a future its competitors cannot replicate.